Shannon here with Shannon Sizzlen Stampers, and I'm super excited to come to you this week with a fun project. It is a super cute little berry basket. Isn't that adorable? It's even got the little openings in it that makes it say berry basket to me, and a cute little easy card. So let's get started with what is in your kit. Now, this class was originally designed for one of my monthly community curbside classes. And I want to tell you first, let's start with what you're going to receive in your kit. Now, a lot of times I pre-cut all your parts for you because of my surgery recovery. I didn't, and so I'm going to teach you how to do all the cuts for yourself. And I think it'll be beneficial to you because you'll learn from scratch how to make these projects and be able to duplicate them. So let's go over what's in your kit. First of all, you have an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock, either this puppy red or you have a really pretty Pacific Point blue. Then you're going to have a 6 by 12 piece of designer series paper, and it's going to have some form of berries. It could have strawberries, raspberries, blueberries, or some combination of all of them. I did try to make the papers match up to where your cardstock coordinated with whatever DSP you got. So that is paper clipped to your little clear envelope, which has a few items in it. And I know it looks like not a lot this month, but really it's because the bulk of the expense of the kit is in stamps. And let me just lay these here so you can see your kit is going to, normally you guys get 1 stamp. This time you're going to get 3, maybe even 4 of you, a handful. And you're going to have blueberries and a leafy branch stem and a saying, or you're going to have a raspberry with the little stem cap and the inside to color the inside of the raspberry and a saying. But everyone will get a saying. And these projects, we are only using the saying. Now, you may have a longer saying or a larger saying, and you're going to need to trim that down. So I'll talk about those options when we get to it. So you've got your stamps. The other thing that you're going to have, I'm going to go ahead and get this stamp put on my block for later, is a white scallop oval, and you're going to have a piece of white baker's twine. So that's what's in your kit. Now, I wanted to try to make this as easy as possible for you to understand how to do the cutting. So I drew a little overlay to my paper for the 8.5 by 11 solid cardstock piece that you are going to get. And I'm going to kind of fill it in, hopefully, as we go. Got a pen in the way. I got to get that out of here. All right. So the first thing I recommend is cut here first. Cut this at 9 inches. So this is 11. We want to cut across at 9. Okay. So then you will have this long piece that is 2 by 8.5. And you're going to cut that down to 6. So you're going to have a piece that's 2 by 6. These diagonal lines mean that's part of the cardstock that we're not going to be using for these projects. That's just extra. You can keep it and do with it what you want. Okay, so we've got our 2 by 6 inch piece. Next, you're going to cut, so you have a 2 3/4 by 9. 2 3/4 by 9. The next piece is 3 by 9. So it's like a puzzle. Then we have a 1 by 9. And then this last one is 1 by 4 1/4. So after you've cut those pieces, all of these top pieces, you're going to set aside together. Those are for the basket. And then this piece, you're going to set aside, that is for the card. All right, now with your 12 by 6 piece of paper, so we've got the basket and the card. This you're going to cut in half at 6 inches. So you want 6 by 6. And you're going to see I've kind of done a little thing here again. So that 6 by 6, we're going to end up cutting that. And you're going to have 2 squares that are 3 by 3. Those will go to the basket. and 2 squares that are 2 3/4 by 3. And those also go to your basket. And you're left with a little tiny sliver that you will want to cut in half. Okay, I've already cut mine in half. So you've got a little sliver, that 1/4 inch sliver from there. You can cut that and you'll have that, and you're going to put that with your card making. And then you're going to take this other piece that you're left with, your other half of 6 by 6. This is now 5 by 6. And you are going to cut 1 inch off of that. See how that's together? You're going to cut 1 inch, 1 by 6, and you're going to cut that into 2 pieces. So you have 2 that are 1 by 3. And that goes over to your card. And then this piece is just extra for you to do with whatever your little heart desires. Same with those extra pieces of red. You may get creative as we build this basket and card, and you may decide you want to do something else. All right, so let's start. And before we do that, I've got to get a drink. I apologize. All right, we're going to do the card first. We're going to do the easy part first. And get you warmed up for your crafting today. So for the card, you will need, and just like that, there we are. You're going to need all your little card. You've got that twine, your oval, and all your little papers. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to stamp our saying in black, in that little black stamp spot. If you don't have that, you can use any color of ink you want or a washable marker. This particular saying will just barely fit, but it will fit. If you have a larger saying, you're going to use a washable marker and just ink the part that you want to stamp. Or you can stamp the whole thing on another piece of scrap paper, white, that you might have or whatever. Or come back in with that red and just do red on red or whatever. And have a square across. It will be fine. That's all the stamping there is for this particular project. Easy peasy. Now this card is 2 inches wide and 6 inches long. We're going to fold that in half. This card is designed to be a little mini hang card, meaning it's not going to have an envelope. It's not going to be anything like that. It's just designed to go with the basket that you might want to give to someone as a complete gift. So we folded that in half. Now comes the creative part. You can turn your card like this if you want to. I'm going to do mine up and down. And you're going to decide, how do you want your papers? Do you want them both on there and cover that fully up? Do you just want a little bit, on there? How do you want that to look? So I think actually I'm going to use this piece, which I'm going to trim this sliver that I've got off of here. And you could make these more narrow if you want, but I'm just trying to show you how to create without and use all the little parts and pieces that you end up with. So I'm going to lay mine like this, and we're just going to use our basic white glue. Ours is Tombow. You can use whatever adhesive you want. I might use this glue if it opens up. There we go. And I'm going to leave a little spot of red on that edge just to, again, bring in some color. I love the white glue because you can kind of adjust. You can move it around a little bit after you've got it on there. All right. Then I'm going to use this tiny skinny strip, that 1/4 inch strip that we cut in half. I'm going to use that and come back over. And all of the papers, no matter what design you got, they're all beautiful and they're all double-sided. So that was the same paper. I'm just using the back side of it. Okay, so I've got that there. Now I'm going to take my twine and I'm just going to wrap it a couple of times around that card and create a knot. I most often do knots with baker's twine. Oh, I've got mine. Mine is not start with your long. For me, I have to start with my long edge over here because I want my knot to be on over the designer series paper side. Wherever I want my knot, whichever side I want my knot to end up on, that's where I put a longer end of my twine to start. All right, so we've got it like that. And bring that down a little bit. And you could have it twisted or not twisted, however you want. And I'm just leaving those tails hanging for the moment. Now remember, I've stamped this. If you don't have dimensionals, you should order some. And in the comment box, there will be a link that shows you what link to use if you're ordering from me this month. And if not, it has a shop with me anytime link. That's always good. I'm using dimensionals. I love them. They're inexpensive and they really make a card literally pop because I just popped that saying up. Now, if you don't have dimensionals, no worries. You can just glue that on flat right on there. And I have intended for that oval to hang off. That's very purposeful. The reason I can do that on this card again is it's not going in an envelope. And I can also leave these little twines hanging loose because at the end, they're just going to, this is going to sit next to the basket to give, or I'll show you a couple other ideas we'll talk about as we finish the basket. So that's the first piece of your project for today. The next part, you're going to get all those basket pieces back out. So you should have 4 squares of DSP with your print. DSP stands for Designer Series Paper. So it's patterned, double-sided patterned paper. And you've got all these. Now we're going to do a couple of things. I'm going to use my scoring tool just because it has a ruler on it. I am going to do a little bit of scoring later. If you don't have a scoring tool, you can use the back of your scissors or a butter knife, a pen that's not exposed, whatever, and a ruler. A straight edge. You just need a straight edge. So the first things we're going to do, we're going to actually score these 1-inch strips halfway. If you don't have a scoring tool on this, the other thing you can do is just fold the paper in half by hand because this 1-inch strip, it's literally folding it in half. And we're going to do the same to the 1-inch that's 4 1/4. So we've just scored those and you'll lay those aside. Now, these, I'm not scoring these necessarily. You can. I'm really just putting it there. These are 9 inches. So I know that to get three even squares, I need to be scoring at the 3-inch mark. Now this one, they won't be perfect squares because this one is, remember, 2 3/4. But again, I'm still putting a mark. These do not need to be scored. So if you do not have a scoring tool, all you need to do is make yourself a little mark with a pen and use your ruler at 3 inches and at 6 inches. And the same on each of those. And that's really just to guide you as you start putting the box together. Because I have the scoring tool, which is one of my favorite tools, I have opted to use it. All right. Let me get that. I feel like I've got a little stuff flying all in here. All right, so step 1 of this card is to take our glue, just your white glue is best, I find, especially when we get to do the brim. You really will want the white glue. So you're going to start with that 3-inch piece there. We're going to lay on, and this is where having those score lines helps so you know where you're keeping your basket, what lines you're keeping your basket in between. If you don't get it exactly on, that's the other reason the white glue is so fabulous for this, because you can really pretty much get that lined up pretty nicely. All right. Then you're going to go back in and you're going to fold all these up. And I'm going to use a bone folder to burnish them really well. You want to make sure they're what we call burnished. And that just means has a really good crisp fold to it. When you go to do the inside one, be careful. Don't get too in a hurry like I just did. You want to make sure, because that's not underneath something. Keep shifting my paper today. So you want to make sure that you're just going across to the other score line on that, no further. So get this burnished. If you don't have a burnishing tool like a bone folder, you can use anything, back of scissors, a butter knife, anything that'll help give you that crisp fold without tearing your cardstock. If you don't have a bone folder, I recommend a butter knife. The thing that's great about the bone folder is it's a little wider than a butter knife, and so it's just handy. It's a good size and useful tool. All right, so our next step is to lay that over. Okay, so now we've got our cross, and we're going to start with our DSP. Now, make sure before you start gluing that you have the 3x3 on the 3x3 sizes and the 2 3/4 on the 2 3/4 sizes. Why did we not just make these boxes 3x3 on all sides? It's because that quintessential berry basket has those little gaps in it. And so that's where, in order to get that gap, you need 2 of the sides to be a little bit smaller than the other 2. All right, the next trick to doing your papers is to make sure that the bottom, if your paper has a definitive top and bottom to the pattern, you want to make sure that that bottom is right in here. The bottom needs to be facing the solid cardstock center. So we'll just glue those on like so. Just go around and do each one. Again, if you're using a ruler and scissors to cut your paper instead of a paper trimmer, no worries. You just, I'm going to show you a trick here because I scissor cut a part of this. So then all you do is go back, and if you see, oh, this one is a little longer than your cardstock, you're going to want to trim that down. That's going to be really important for this next step. Otherwise, it's really not going to be a big deal. And the other thing is, this box is very forgiving, especially if you're hand cutting. So if you don't have a perfectly straight cut line, you'll be fine. All right, now we've got our box. Our box is basically built. It should look like this. Okay, set that aside. The next step we're going to be doing, we've scored this already. We're going to do what we call breaking down the fibers and the paper. And you're going to do this by curling your cardstock. And for this, I prefer to use a bone folder. Again, you can get out a butter knife. I've seen people use the box of scissors. Scissors are difficult for me to try to do that. But you really want to get a nice curl because we're going to uncurl it, but we need those fibers to get broken down. And make sure you try as best you can to break down these ends, because it tends to be those ends that end up causing the most problem. It's kind of like curling curly ribbon at Christmas time or for a birthday gift. That's the same effect that you're wanting to do. I'm putting my thumb here and I'm pulling with the bone folder to get that curl, similar to how you curl ribbon. And I'm coming back in at the edges to really try to get those edges broken down, the fibers on those edges. You'll see if I don't break the fibers down. If they don't get broken down as well, you can do it, but it's just a little bit more tedious. So try to break those down. Now we're going to go in and using that score line, or where you folded it in half before, refold it and burnish it again. Boy, I have got ink all over my hands. I hope my husband cuts it out because I just realized I was trying to get my hands wet. All right. So here we are burnishing these handles. do them on both sides so you get a good burnish. Now see how I didn't get this one exactly even? It's okay. It's not going to be a huge problem for this project. This is really a pretty forgiving project. Now comes the tricky part. We're going to start with the short piece, and you're going to use your white Tombow white liquid glue, and you just put it all in there. Get some on those edges. And I've got my box laying with a little fray there. I've got the solid color laying up, center paper down. And I'm going to try to kind of center this. It doesn't have to be exact. I'm going to center that in, push on it and give it just a minute to kind of set. Have your bone folder handy. You may want that. I'm going to bring my next corner up and fold that in like so. And you're going to do the repeat, same thing on this other corner. So you're bringing the corners tight at the top, and hopefully you can see that, and that leaves that nice fun gap at the bottom. And then you're going to slowly start folding that brim over, and that's why those edges, the more you can get the fiber broke down, the easier it will be for you to fold over. Now, don't worry if they're not perfectly smooth. I don't know if you've ever seen these berry baskets, but they get set in stacks. And so they do not always look perfectly like they just came from the factory. So that's step one, not too hard. That's the hardest part of the box right there, that little short brim. Now you're going to repeat doing the same thing with your long piece. So we're going to apply our glue. We're going to sit this piece about halfway, and I'm just eyeballing it. Again, if you are someone who likes things very exactly measured, feel free to put your dots on there. This is 9 inches, so again at 3 and 3. Bring it up to the next corner, start it going over. It's going to have a nice overlap to that back piece, and then start your next corner over. Try to keep the top of your basket at that score line so that you can easily, oopsie, I got mine way down too low on that side. Couldn't get my scoring over. And then you just keep going, keep feeding it through around and around. See this end, I didn't get the fibers broke down as well on it. It was much more difficult to make that corner. But if you've done it with the 9 inches properly and you got it pretty even, you'll have an end here and an end there, and that becomes the back of your box. So there's the box. There's the top. Super cute little box. Love it. And it is the perfect size for those short jars of jam. You could put a berry jam that maybe matches your paper in there. Put some shred or whatever, some cuteness in there. And then, of course, we have our little gift card. Now, this card you could take and just easily slide it, centered right there, right on the inside. And you don't adhere it down. You just slide it over. That's what I love about it, doing it this way. It fits perfect and becomes like a little focal point on the front of your basket. The other thing you could do is, instead of winding your whole twine around the card, because you don't see very much of it, most of it's back here, you just put a little knot on there with your glue and then use the rest of your length and poke a little tiny hole here and a little tiny hole in the back half of your card and tie your card on with your twine that way, and maybe do a small bow. But either way, I hope that you really like this berry basket, and I'm sure whoever you give it to will think it's very, very cute. So I wish you the best this summer. I hope that you'll continue to join me. Look me up on Facebook, YouTube here, subscribe and share. I always love and appreciate those. So thank you again, and we'll see you next month. Bye-bye.